Hey, Blue Cheese!
And welcome to Hey What?
I'm Talaal.
I'm Brian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Parker.
And today we'll be talking about NAC.
Talaal, what is NAC?
NAC is a conference we have every year. It's a National Advocacy Conference, and we usually talk about issues with STEM education.
What kind of people do you talk about this with?
Yeah, so it's Congress people, so senators and representatives from the House and the Senate. A couple of the people we talked to this year were Mark Smith, Tim Kaine, Abigail Spanberger's people, and then Whitman, Donald Whitman, that's his first name.
So you guys, What kind of stuff have you managed to advocate over the years?
Yeah, this is the first time we've done it in person since COVID started, so we've done it virtually the last 2 years, where it's been kind of rough. But before that, it's a lot of advocating for the Every Student Succeeds Act, Title IV Part A, which is basically what grants funding for robotics teams. There's a clause in it that gets things to extracurricular activities like robotics. So every year we advocate for the continued and increased funding for it, because here's something we learned at NAC. There is an initial amount something can be funded for. That was $1.6 billion for ESSA. But then it was appropriated, is the word, at $1.28 billion. So there's still about $0.4 billion that isn't being used, and we always advocate for them to increase it further and further.
And I assume it's split up between many teams, right? Or different groups?
It's split up between all the organizations that it kind of filters down into. It's kind of left in charge of the others. Another thing that we talked about this year is USICA, which is, or the Innovates Act, something like that. Competes Act, that's the one. Which is basically also just granting additional funding to nonprofit STEM education. So, yeah, more money, more support.
So how did you personally, what did you do during this NAC conference?
Yeah, so there was a couple of us that went up. What was it? There was Harshini Kanala, Aditya, Aurora, Apurva. There was Abhi, and then there was Kiran, who is our advocacy lead. There was Audrey, who is a new member, who will be joining us next year. She's technically a rookie plus.
So is she not even in high school yet?
Yeah, and then there was Christina. So we all went with Coach Wilson and the advocacy mentor, Miss Newton. And we went up, and it was a 3-day conference. For the first 2 days, we were in a kind of a lecture hall, and a bunch of teams from all around the nation were kind of gathered up, and we were taught kind of how to talk to people, what we're talking about, how the government works, so we wouldn't look like stupid when we were talking to everybody. And then on the third day, we dressed up, and we walked up and down Capitol Hill, and we talked to all those people that I mentioned previously.
How many stops did you make?
Stops for people or stops in general?
Stops for people. Like when you said you were like walking down Capitol Hill, like how many times did you stop and talk to people?
Yeah, so we always went into we were left by a staff person into like their offices, and we talked to them. And so I think we had 6 meetings in total, which were split into like 30 minutes to an hour, where we just kind of discussed what's robotics, what's Blue Cheese, what's the bill we want you to fund, why you should fund it, over and over again.
Sorry, did they ask you any questions?
Yeah, they kind of asked us why we're doing this, why did we get into robotics. They asked us why they should continue to fund the bill further. A lot of, I mean, they're politicians. They'll always try to kind of get you to say something you're not supposed to say, so they can use it against you. So we kind of had to be very, very careful with how we played it.
How long do you know how long you've been doing this for, or how long the team's been doing NAC for?
Yeah, well, I was on Chairman's, so this was one of our statistics. It's 2013. We one of the founding members. It started, and since 2013, we've been going there, talking to people, presenting, kind of getting a hang of it. We're one of the charter teams, which are like kind of the original teams that started founding it. So yeah, we've been doing it for a long time.
How many teams started out?
Oh, that's a great question. From Virginia, there was like a couple. There was like 5. This year, there weren't that many because everybody's recovering from COVID. There was only 2.1 teams.
0.1?
Yeah.
What was like the 0.1?
There was a team from Thomas Jefferson, but they only sent one person.
Well,
Thomas Jefferson, as in, is that the name of the organization? Because I don't know that
That's the name of the high school.
That's a person.
I know it's a person. I know it's not a state, though.
it's
Yeah,
Thomas
it's
Jefferson High
from
School.
from Virginia. It's a high school, Thomas Jefferson High School.
Well, that person probably was really good if they only sent one person.
Yeah, they really believe in that person.
They were smart.
They do robots.
They were the only
smart.
person for their team, so they kind of carried.
Like, what did you guys do there as a team to help you prepare? Like, do you guys like quiz each other or like recite
Yeah.
speeches?
So after on the second day, we kind of did mock practice sessions. The other team that was there was Robo Loco. I don't know their team number, but they were there. So we presented with them. They've also been coming here for years and years and years. And so we practiced, like teachers pretended to be the Congress people, and we practiced presenting. And then there was, Monday night, where we were, our team was up all night preparing scripts. We started maybe at like 7, and we were up until 1 a.m. just writing, rehearsing, and revising scripts over and over. The hotel staff got really annoyed because I think we had used up in the end like 100, 150 like pages and a bunch more staples.
It's a lot of staples.
Oh, you guys didn't like type it? You wrote it down on paper?
No, we typed it and we printed it out, so we would have notes while we were actually at the meetings.
Oh, okay.
So, were you, like the meetings, they were like a bunch of team members like sitting around like a conference table.
Yep. So, we participated in all the meetings. We had 2 virtual meetings and like 3 in-person ones, something like that. The best part of this is whenever you walk into the building, you have to go through a screening with a metal detector because, Washington. And so if you walk in, there's always a 50-50 chance you set it off for no reason. And like, Abhi set it out every single time. And Wilson taught us a trick that if you cover the buckle of your belt with your hand while you're walking through, it's less likely to go off, and it worked. So that was an experience. But then we walked into the room. They led us through a series of really complicated hallways, and then we finally arrived in the room. And yeah, that was kind of the whole process, I guess. We talked about blue cheese. We talked about FIRST. A couple members shared their stories. Then we talked about ESSA and USICA. And then, yeah, they asked questions.
What was your specific speaking portion about?
Most of the time, I told them what blue cheese was, what we do, since that's more or less my specialty. And yeah, so I told them like how the team works, like the sub-teams, the competitions, the outreach, the advocacy, all that fun stuff.
Do you still remember your entire speech like you do chairman's?
We don't.
Oh yeah, I do actually.
Do you want to recite it?
I don't think he needs to recite it.
I can recite the first paragraph.
Give us an excerpt from it.
We are FIRST Team 1086 Blue Cheese, and we are paving the way to a cheddar future. We ignite passion for science, technology, engineering, and math by growing the FIRST program at all levels, advocating for STEM and federal STEM education funding, and engaging the underserved in STEM.
That sounds
very much like the chairman's.
I was gonna
Might
say,
just be how you speak, but I think that sounds a lot like the chairman's one.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
That was.
Well, no, that was the chairman's one.
Oh, that was.
Oh, so you just used the chairman's speech?
For when I described blue cheese, I was just kind of winging it. there was just like talking points, and I talked around those. But it was mostly me being like, yeah, I'll figure it out.
Did you guys split up to talk to people, or were you all in the same
together?
room?
Yeah, so there was a couple teams there. So in total, we had a lot of team members. It was like 12, 14, something like that. So there was one point where each of us was doing, like, there was a group of 7 and 7 doing 2 separate meetings. Yeah, and then there was also, our first meeting was really early in the morning, so we kind of had to sacrifice 2 team members to go to that. I was one of those team members. But anyway, it was a 30-minute walk up Capitol Hill in the blazing Washington sun and dress shoes.
I heard from over
yeah.
I heard from team members that it was quite a trek.
Yeah, so let's just say a lot of feet were bleeding. So I think around the second or third meeting, we got back from another trip up Washington, and me and Aditya's feet were like dead. Aditya's were bleeding, and mine were just like swollen. So we went to the corner and found some chairs to like kind of blow steam after a while. I gave somebody a piggyback ride too, because everyone was just so done.
That reminded me, that sort of like brings me to my next question. How many seniors were there? That's a weird segue, I know, but how many seniors like were present?
From our thing or in total?
From our team.
Blue cheese.
None.
Yeah, it sounds
so
about right.
I was the oldest, or I was one of the oldest there. So rising, there was only rising seniors. You can be a senior and go to it, just none of our seniors had the bright idea to do it.
Yeah, when you said piggyback, I was like, oh, it must have been someone small, like a rookie.
Or Eli.
Or Brandon. So I was like, what about seniors? Were there any seniors there? So that's my reasoning for asking that question.
Yeah, so as far as the ages were split up, there was me, Kieran, Harshini, and Christina, who were the oldest. We were all rising seniors. Then there was Aditya, Apurva, and Abhi, who were
sophomores, right?
Aditya's a rising junior, and Apurva and Abhi are rising sophomores. And then there was Audrey. She's not technically on the team yet. She'll be joining our team next year. But she's neighbors with Mama, and she's kind of she knows a lot about the, I guess, political stuff, because she is friends with Abigail Spanberger's daughter, so she has kind of an inside view. So we were like, yeah, we can take her. That'll probably be good.
Speaking of team members, the mentor for this whole thing was Miss Noon, right?
Yep.
How did she help you all prepare for this?
Yeah, so as you know, Coach Wilson is a great coach. However, he's a little bit sporadic.
I've taken his physics course.
I don't think we need to bash Coach Wilson.
Yeah, but anyway, she was kind of the one who kept the order, reminded us when we needed to be where, kind of helped organize the meetings, and kept us sane, is what I'd say.
That sounds healthy.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Did she make you guys go to bed at the conference, or did you guys stay up every night working?
It was, so we stayed up all of Monday night, basically, working. Sunday, we were a little bit more free, so we went to sleep earlier, but yeah, Monday was just mostly work.
So this sounds like a fun experience. What would you say to a team member or a prospective team member that is interested but is not sure if they would like to come on this trip?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, have comfortable dress shoes is my biggest piece of advice. If you're going to be walking up and down Washington in heels and wooden shoes, you are going to want to cry more than you have ever cried. But yeah, that's one main thing. And then there's a lot of stuff to do outside of the whole advocacy that we haven't talked about yet. But that's it's a good experience, even if you're not the best. It's good. It's just fun, is what I'd say.
Can you give some examples of the stuff that you mentioned that are outside of the advocacy that you had to do?
Yeah, so the first thing was there was kind of a rookie session early in the morning that we had to go to that kind of explained what NAC was, first of all, where we met a lot of the teams with members that hadn't come before. So that was a good way to make relations. And then there was a lot of, like, miscellaneous people. Like, we had, like, the head of PR for Lego there.
Brian's interested.
As you know, there's a new Lego factory opening up in Chesterfield. So we talked to her about that briefly. And there was a lot of state advocacy stuff. We ran to other teams. There was a lot of connection making was the biggest thing, I think. We talked to teams from Michigan, Wisconsin, New York, California, Texas. So we have like their numbers saved, their emails. We talked to them, had to make relations. Another thing we found out was that another one of the teams actually also had a podcast, so we talked about that briefly.
Ooh, what team?
That was Robo Loco, right?
That was in fact Robo Loco, yes.
And
they've been apparently doing the podcast for a while, so it was kind of interesting hearing them talking about it. Kind of some of the same experiences we have.
When you were doing your speeches, did you guys have like PowerPoints or like any physical like media to show the representatives?
Yeah, so we didn't have any presentations, but we did have a folder at the end. It had infographics of our impact statement and our team information, and we also had all of the business cards of the people associated in there. So, yeah, I still have like 60 business cards that I haven't used just with me. So,
business cards tend to be a thing that you just start collecting over time.
Yeah, I have a lot now. Aditya has like them framed on his wall because there's like a bunch from the senators. They're actually right next to me because I'm too lazy to put them up. Let's see who I have from. We have somebody from the Chief of Staff, Robert C. Bobby Scott, Member of Congress. We have, what's this person? Robert Whitman. We have that person. We have Mark R. Warner, and then we have a bunch of teams. Yeah.
You should put them all like in a wallet and see if it'll close.
That's actually a good idea. That would be a thick wallet. And as far as experiences went, I think the most fun stuff was trying to find food. Because I said we walked around the Capitol, and that was a lot for NAC. A lot of it was also trying to find food. I'm pretty sure my diet for those 3 days consisted mostly of ice cream and pizza.
I think on Slack I saw a picture of everyone eating at Chick-fil-A or McDonald's. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it was a McDonald's. Yeah. We had our business meetings where we were discussing what our next step was at restaurants. It was very interesting.
Do you know what you guys have? What other things have been accomplished since NAC was first started? Like how many?
Yeah.
Deals have been passed?
I guess it's politics is a very slow process, is what I'll say. So ESSA Title IV Part A, before it was called that, it was called the No Child Left Behind Act. And it was a very different bill, but one of the main issues was it gave schools money depending on a failure index, kind of. So,
what does that mean?
Special needs kids, poor neighborhood, stuff like that was all counted as, failure. And they kind of did it that way. And the way they distributed money was also, very bad. So then the Every Student Succeed Act was kind of serialized, which is a lot better. It gives money based on kind of context that makes sense. So that's one thing that was kind of accomplished over the lifespan. Right now we're pushing for USICA to get passed, the Competes Act. So the reason that's been being passed is because, as you all may know, there was kind of a chip shortage during COVID. Due to that, people were like, damn, we really just export everything from other countries. And they were like, wow, we really shouldn't do that. And then they realized they didn't have the workforce for that. They're like, we need to teach kids about STEM and we need to get them into the field so we can have like the workers of tomorrow, so we don't need to rely on other countries. And so that's the Competes Act helps the United States kind of get a wider diversity of STEM people. Yeah.
So speaking of that, what would you say is like the biggest, like most impactful bill or like law that we've helped advocate to pass that has been passed?
On the federal level or the state level?
Both. Start with state level.
Yeah, so state level, I don't remember what the bill was called, but there was a bill we passed that provided just money to STEM programs, but it was a pilot program, and it was abandoned after the first year, so that was big sad. And as far as federal goes, there's a lot of things, it's a lot, like, it's all basically one bill and one kind of branch, but there's so many subcomponents that we advocate for that kind of coalesce into the bigger picture. And as far as victories go, ESSA is probably our biggest one. Right now we're working towards USICA, and there's also, what was it? There was one more, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it's honestly all one bill that's just split into a bunch of different things that are all advocated for.
Would you say you had success during this particular NAC conference?
Yeah, there was very positive reception, I'll say. A lot of the times, Congress people can kind of try to be a bit stiff, kind of lead you to the wrong subject matter, take you off track. But this time it went pretty well. We managed to stay afloat, and I think we made some really good progress. Another thing that I failed to talk about, actually, is we got a tour of Washington from Whitman's office.
Where did you go?
So that was an experience. We got to tour the old Congress. We saw the place where John Quincy Adams died at the couch. We saw like murals and the statues and the old jury area. That was very cool.
What was your favorite part?
My favorite part was the mural. My least favorite part, as you'll often find out, is that old buildings have very poor air conditioning systems.
Yeah, they do. Especially like open buildings like that.
Well, they didn't have air conditioning, so they designed them to be different, I guess. Probably cooler without air conditioning.
They're literally built different.
Yeah, they are built different.
Anyway.
So that was an experience. I think Kieran was the one geeking out over it most, since she's from Freeman, which is like very sickly the government center. Mm-hmm. So she was having a grand old time.
And do you guys have any like ideas of what you want to try to advocate for next year?
Yeah, it'll probably be, so right now, we are up and coming on our new congressional election. So I don't remember what it was, but I think the entire House of Representatives and a third of the Senate are up for re-election. So there's going to be a very big shift once election season comes out. So we'll honestly see. Right now, USICA is in conference, which is a very rare thing that happens. It is when people pass basically very similar things, but with slightly different parts, and they need to coalesce it into one bill. So if the House and Senate pass two different bills, which are very similar, but they don't completely agree, sometimes it's thrown into something called conference, where people basically meet and make amendments, take away amendments, and kind of refine the bill in a long congressional thing. And just for reference, this conference is huge. 25% of, I think, like, the Hill is on that committee, which may not seem like much in hindsight, but considering how many people are on the Hill, it is an insane amount. So we'll see the progress with that next year.
Would you change anything that you did from this conference?
Yes. Wear more comfortable shoes. My feet were bleeding. My feet were dead. I couldn't move the first 3 days after I got back from NAC, unironically. I was like bedridden.
Bedridden?
Bedridden.
Bedridden.
Bed riding.
Yeah, riding. So yeah, that is the biggest thing I change. Also, remember that Ubers exist, which we could have used. Kind of forgot about that for a while. So
Yeah, but then that costs more money.
yes, but not nearly enough that it would have offset the pain enough.
Aren't there buses at Washington?
There's a subway system.
There's buses, but they will not make it in time. Also, we were there right after the Roe v. Wade thing was overturned, so there was protest going on too. So that was something.
Yeah, I imagine like the protests add like a lot more difficulty of trying to like navigate throughout the entire area.
We basically had to avoid one part of Washington, and we kind of had to walk around it. So that was an experience.
Was Coach walking around with you?
Yeah, he's really used to this, so he was just having a grand old time. I have some videos, but we were all just mildly suffering in the back. I'm not sure if you guys saw Slack either, but were y'all here for when that one kid accidentally took Wilson's wallet?
No.
What?
I would like to hear the story.
So Wilson is a little bit forgetful, and he leaves his stuff around. So one time he left his wallet on a table, and a student named Logan accidentally took it, and then he gave it back. And then for his graduation present to Wilson, he got him a new wallet. So I kind of one-upped Logan by accident.
What do you mean by accident?
I accidentally took Wilson's suitcase. So I had Wilson's suitcase for like 2-3 days, and I had to give it back to him. And now I suspect I'm going to have to give him a suitcase for my graduation.
What did he say to you? Like when you gave it back?
Did he give you the really look?
He honestly wasn't sure how I mixed them up. They were different colors and everything. I was just really out of it when we got back.
Did he give you the classic Wilson face where it just says like "really, dude"?
Yeah, precisely. He laughed about it for a good while, though. It's just such a comical thing to happen.
So, what have you guys been doing on like the local level, not just state and federal?
Yeah, so on the local level, we've been working on a lot of things. The first thing is to get the registration fee for robotics teams covered in our area. So, as you know, or may know, there's a first-time registration fee, which is about $6,000 to start a robotics team. And so right now we are working together with the school board and to kind of get that paid for. So everybody can start a robotics team if there's enough interest and they don't kind of have to worry about the barrier of entry. So far we've met with members of the school board and member of the, what's it called? Just members of the local district's office. And we've discussed plans for that. We've made infographics, we've sent emails, we've had meetings, a lot of fun stuff. And then we are also currently advocating for the creation of a STEM gym. So if you guys didn't know, Triple Helix, y'all know that team, right?
Yes. They're from Norfolk, right?
Norfolk.
Yes.
They're from the coast of Virginia.
But
You can't say it like that if you're not from there.
They have a STEM gym where they basically have all the room to practice with their robots and set up fields and do stuff. So it's like PCS++. So right now we are working to get one of those made for ourselves. So that's going to take a bit longer. That'll probably get done if it gets done after I leave.
Yeah.
But we are starting the process of making one of those a reality. So we'll have fields to do stuff, and not everything has to be hosted at Deep Run.
Would we move would they build the robots there too, or?
That's a great question. So we still don't know, but Coach wants to move our building location closer to the school.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the complaints he's heard is that it's just simply PCS is too far away, and everything should be a little bit closer.
Anything.
And that's a big reason. There's a lack of participation from a certain group of people. So he kind of wants to move closer to Deep Run or at Deep Run. So we'll see what the next phase of those plans are. But yeah, that's what's in the works right now.
I mean, I see no reason not to take over the small gym. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
It's right now,
it would. The building actually would be the size of the small gym. That's the size of an average. Competition arena. So that would be it would be slightly bigger than that size. Would have to be the building. We already actually have the dimensions for the entire building. They've been released, like the blueprints. So it's not even that like hard to conceptualize.
Wait, so it'd be like constructed from the ground up?
Or would we just like take a building?
So we still don't know about that either. If we are, there's like math science innovation like community center that we're looking at. The old Highland Springs building has places. And we have been looking at, like, there's an open plot of land right next to the library we are all currently definitely at.
Yes, all of us are
that
here.
we can look at.
Everyone is here.
Where's the open plot of land? I'm trying to think which direction.
Where the park is? Like, there's near there is just a big open, like, field that not much is done in.
I know what you're talking about.
I'll have to look at maps later.
But, like, having the team be at somewhere that's much closer to the school.
Yeah.
If I was still in high school, I would definitely be participating more.
Yeah, a lot more people would probably show up because the drive is annoying.
There's like really from this area, there's only two main ways to get there, and it's either one way that's like a pretty long drive on the interstate, and then the other one that's going like on like a back road, like that goes like
through the woods, lots of turns.
Yeah, and it's also like 45 mile per hour roads with a single lane.
And I kind of prefer the back road.
Yeah, I always take the back roads.
Yeah.
There's also space, like, if you're, like, coming from the commons, like, across the parking lot in that, like, field where it's, like, a square of grass with, like, white lines on it. There's a spot to build there.
Yeah, we could just get rid of those fields.
Yeah. I mean, it's not unfeasible. Y'all know, like, the different gym we have?
Okay. What was your question, Talaal?
We have a gym, like, for our school. Y'all might have been there, the athletics building. That wasn't there originally, and it was asked for, and it was built, so it's not entirely unfeasible.
Would this it was like an open, what did you call it, a gym for STEM is what you called it, right?
STEM gym, yeah.
Would that be open to other teams to use or just for blue cheese?
It's for everyone. Okay. All the teams around us who want to come and use it as a practice field to learn. It'll also be open to like FLL and FTC members so they can get guidance.
Can we call it a STEM?
For some of the blueprints we were drawing up, it would even have a conference room where podcasts could take place or other things.
Oh, there would?
So you're saying we don't have to keep
renting this library room that all of us are totally in right now, all four of us?
Everyone is here?
Yeah, that would technically be the idea, yes.
So we can probably keep talking about this for like another 50 minutes.
Yeah, I'm
like
very interested. I had no idea you guys were working on this, and now I'm very interested.
But unfortunately, we have to wrap up soon.
Yeah, because we're going to get kicked out of this room in like 15 minutes.
So is there anything else you would like to add, Talaal?
Yeah, all I'd say is advocacy and outreach, while not part of the robot, they're pretty cool. As somebody who used to mainly be on programming, but now is mainly on advocacy and outreach and Chipmans, I'd say it is a worthwhile experience and a good opportunity. So if you're ever interested, you should help out, try out, and NAC is fun as long as you bring comfortable shoes.